Beyond the Badge is brought to you by the Edina Crime Prevention Fund and Orange Theory Fitness.
The Edina police responded to an assault in progress on November 6, 2014. When they arrived, they found two injured people telling different stories. Edina Investigates takes a look at the Brock Orwig case, one of the most complex domestic assault cases the department has seen.
I started to cry on the phone with the officer that had called me. And Brianna came up to hug me. And she started crying. And I said, "Oh, honey, I'm crying. This is a good cry. This is a very good cry because the man who hurt me is going to jail now." And she looked at me and said, "Who was it, Daddy?"
We had evidence that we'd never seen before. We had over 300 pieces of evidence in this case, which is extraordinary. We had two completely divergent views of what happened. If you listen to Brock Orwig's story, he shows up, he's attacked literally at the doorway or just inside the door of the home by a crazy woman with a knife. She's flailing knives, slicing into his skin, and then what he chooses to do next is pick up her car keys off the floor and run out of her home, which is on two busy streets, and instead of going to the street where there's a bus stop and cars driving by constantly, he chooses to run into her fenced-in backyard and then into her closed garage, which he would have no way of knowing if it was even unlocked by going in the side door if he hadn't unlocked it himself earlier. And then he says he got into her car and he had taken her keys to drive his car out of there, but didn't know how to start her car with the keys. So he ended up staying there, and then when she got out to the garage, he got out and was stabbed in the back.
Emergency.
I need someone over here right now.
Where are you?
Shoot me, Dina. I've just been attacked and tried to kill me.
That day was our usual routine. Brianna and I got up and I got her ready for school. She ate breakfast, I had my coffee. So I went out front and walked her out to the bus.
Okay, who tried to kill you?
I don't know, some guy. He came in as soon as I got my daughter on the bus and he snuck up from behind me. I was sitting in my chair in the living room and he started slamming me on the head with the wooden bar and bleeding all over the place.
In the middle of my email, I thought something had fallen on my head. I thought about it for a second and I thought, that's really strange. There's nothing above my head that could have fallen on me. And I got up and turned around and looked, and there was a man standing behind me, a big smile on his face. I remember his nose looked flat. He was wearing a blonde wig, dark clothing, black stocking cap.
And he came up from behind me in my living room chair and started hitting me on the head with a wooden something inside a tube sock.
As I looked at him briefly, and I think I still had my coat on, everything, I yelled, "What are you doing?" as he proceeded to continue to try to bash my head in.
Okay, so somebody hit your head?
He hit my head and then he tried to strangle me to death, and I stayed dead until he finally left. He tried putting pills down my throat and pouring something down my throat.
This man was on top of me, had his fingers digging into my throat, and he eventually let go. And the moment that I knew I was going to die from strangulation, I just started playing dead. After a while, I could hear him cleaning up around here. I had a leather sofa, and I could hear him wiping the sofa. He tied my arms to my body. He tied my legs together. I could hear him walking around the house. All of this lasted for a little over 2 hours. I could hear him rummaging through my kitchen drawers, and I could hear him in my knife drawer. And my eyes popped open when I heard the knife drawer shut and heard him walking closer to me, and my eyes popped open and I said, "Oh my God, I'm dead now." But when he came to me with the knives, instead of stabbing me with them, he took my left hand first and he carefully applied my fingerprints to the handle and to the knife blade, and with my right hand did the same thing with a different knife. Then he untied the upper half of my body and removed my coat. Again, I heard the rustling of the bags, the zip zip of a duffel or what have you. I heard him grab my keys and he left.
I've got officers en route. I just need you to answer questions here, okay?
Okay. I'm trying to keep the doors locked. He's in my garage right now.
Okay. You don't know?
I'm very scared.
Okay. I understand that.
Yeah.
Have you seen him before at all?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
And
somebody just tried to come back in my side door. Please send someone right
the
now.
officers are en route, Lee. Can you tell me? Can you see this person?
No, but he's opening the door again. And he's going between the side door and the front door.
She asked me if I could see him, and she asked me to stay on the phone. And the only window that looks out into the backyard, I checked the kitchen door, the kitchen window, the front windows to see that nobody else was around the front or the side of the house. So I went into my bedroom, which is the only window that looks out into the backyard. And I could see that my garage door was left open, the walk-in garage door. I always lock that at nighttime. So I believed he was in my garage. And I told dispatch that. And she asked me for the code to punch in so they could open up the big door. And I just remember a wave of relief when I finally heard the police knocking on my front door to come in to help me.
The totality of everything we saw, heard, and all the evidence we processed, and looking at the crime scene ourselves, told us that the story of Lee Orwig was correct and the story of Brock was contrived and incorrect. You have to realize that he showed up on a cold morning wearing a jacket. I mentioned earlier that he had slices on his arm that he claimed were caused by her attacking him. There's no corresponding slices in the jacket sleeve. That he got stabbed in the back, there's no corresponding knife hole in the back of the jacket, which means he took it off immediately before being assaulted, which again doesn't make sense.
Each one of those cut marks were superficial in nature. That's how I would classify them, and they were very linear to one another on his arm, whereas they could be potentially self-induced, I guess you would say. They didn't have a natural look of somebody doing that to another person. And Brock was found with a knife in his back, and there were some circular blood stains that were located along a wall, actually right next to a bobsled in the garage. In those blood stains, the geometric shape of those blood stains showed me that they likely fell pretty much straight down. In putting everything together, I felt that knife was, the way it was in his back, I felt it was something where he may have also put that knife to his back and actually backed into that sled, and those blood stains fell to the ground and creating kind of a circular pattern. I did blood stain pattern analysis on the jacket back at the laboratory, and on that jacket there were multiple stain patterns that I found to be pretty significant. There's kind of a continuous blood-soaked pattern on the jacket, except where you could see that the jacket was kind of scrunched up, and that scrunching effect left a void, or a section of the jacket was not touched by the blood. So coming up with theory, perhaps she's being moved on the floor, and that jacket is, perhaps she's being pulled, say, by her feet or whatever, but bottom line, that jacket is being scrunched up on her body, the floor is bloody, and there's a void from that scrunching. She had wood floors in her home, and you can see that pattern or that impression of that transfer of that wood floor pattern onto the jacket. So kind of interesting.
The dried blood on the jacket, the dried blood on her, all suggest this is something that happened over a long period of time, probably an hour or 2 hours. And his version has this happening in 45 seconds to a couple minutes.
So tell me again, how long were you in the house actually?
I don't know.
I mean, were you guys talking for half an hour or maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes or what?
Well, I think it was like 45 seconds.
Oh, so you were just in the house briefly? Very briefly?
Yeah.
Inside the garage, there were 3 bags that were grouped together, tied up, and blood on the outside, multiple articles on the inside. Those articles contributed to the story that we were learning from Lee being assaulted, shedding blood, and then multiple items had blood on them, towels and various items.
Brock Orwig's DNA is inside the knots that tied the garbage bags closed containing the evidence. How do you explain that? His version doesn't, her version does.
The story that we were getting from Brock wasn't adding up. It was more weighing towards what Lee is saying, and the note really for me, and the description of items and the map is definitely, is good evidence.
What we specifically found was a note in a pocket of a jacket worn by Brock Orwig, and it's a two-sided note. One side was a map showing his home, a location in Hopkins, and Lee Orwig's home.
On the other side of that document was a list, a handwritten list of multiple items that basically action items, and that also listed several items that I believed were likely used in the commission of this crime. Several of these items were located inside those bags. Knife, booze, Xanax. That was definitely something that we had a lot of interest in.
It was literally what I would call a murder to-do list. And as crazy as that sounds, people who are in high-stress situations oftentimes pre-plan and make notes so they don't forget anything. And in this case, it looks like he listed out everything that he was going to do, everything he was going to change, everything he was going to leave there. And this was his list of how to follow through on this.
This was a premeditated crime that was meant to look as something else.
I know that the police are still driving by every, 15 minutes or so, but yes, I live in fear. And we're gonna have to figure something out to get to a safe place, because he knows this place. Now he knows the inside of this place, and that scares me. He's not done. I'm alive today. I may not be alive for very much longer. I mean, this man tried to kill the mother of his daughter, someone that I had given up everything in my life for. How do you do that and get away with it?
According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of physical abuse by an intimate partner within their lifetime. If you know someone who needs help but may be afraid to ask, call the Edina Police Department's non-emergency line and ask to speak with the detective.